Good morning, everyone. Let's give everybody a few seconds to get into the room. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, good morning, everyone. This is the LT&A company bringing you this morning's edition of the Contractor Chatter. Yes, there is no go back to the original title and something everybody recognizes and taking my own good. But Contractors Chatter is just that. It's where government contractors get together and we just spend a few moments chatting about what's new in the government contracting world. You know how we were raised. When you enter the room, you say hello to everybody. So good morning to everyone. If you find this content um, serving, hit that like button, share it with your friends. If you're catching this on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe so that you can stay current with what's going on. I will have a few master classes coming out at the end of the year. You want to stay tuned for that because my master classes will only be broadcast on YouTube at the LTNA Contractors Conversations page that's on YouTube channel. But yeah, good morning. So let's get this party started. I threw out a couple of contract terms and I just want to clarify that for everybody. Yesterday I talked about contract novations and last week I talked about contract amendments. And they are two different things and I just thought I should define them so that I could get rid of any confusion. A contract novation is where another party is taking responsibility for a contract. I.e., let's just say the fabulously Levon Enterprises has a contract with the government and L. Turner Associates takes that contract over. That would be a contract novation. A contract amendment is where there's a change in terms, i.e. the period of performance has been extended from the base year to add an extended year. Say the original contracting terms started January of 2020, extending until November of 2021. You would do a contract amendment to extend that contract out to November of 2022. You wouldn't do a whole new contract, you would just do a contract amendment. So I just wanted to clarify what that terminology are. Because I know I throw a whole lot of contract terms out there, and I realize I don't always explain what those terms are. And that's the purpose of this platform, to explain what it is. And sometimes people use those terms, the terms interchangeably, and they're not. A novation and an amendment are two different things. So there we have it. I clarified myself. And if I ever do that and I don't explain it, shoot me an email, shoot me a direct message saying, Luciana, you said this, I don't understand. I would gladly clarify it, do some additional research, drop some resources. I may even do a whole class on it if enough people want clarification on it, because that's the purpose of this platform, to bring clarification on exactly what's going on and what the overarching purpose of it is. And with that, we'll move on. where the, our government is still, grandstanding on the FY 2022 budget. It is a mega monster at 3 trillion with a T dollar. There's a big difference between the House version and the Senate version, and that's really where the rubber meets the road. And according to our appropriations process, they have to pass the same thing. And the House knew the Senate wasn't going to approve what it passed. So they sent it to the Senate knowing that it wasn't going to get approved. The Senate had issue with the waiver of the debt ceiling. The Senate had issue with some of the spending in there. And and it's not just a Republican thing, it's just a moderate versus conservative. Conservatives are like, no, we need to rein in the spending. Moderates are like, well, we need to get the economy stimulated. So it's not a party line split as much as it's an ideology split. How do we spend the money to re-stimulate the economy? However, how do we not spend ourselves into the hole? And that's what's going on with the budget. We do have a continuing resolution which funded the government through December. Once again, the government is going to be funded. Once again, we're not going to default on our debt because we have pride in our nation. We're not going to see our country become a fifth world nation. And I know there's no such thing as fifth world. I'm being a little facetious there by not paying our bills. However, we have to pay for the spending, which is where the mobilization of the IRS and their uptick in audits is going to come in. There's the bill that did pass, which had a price tag of, I believe, 3 billion, or was that also 3 trillion? I can't remember. These big numbers sometimes make me break out in hives. Included a watch waiver, and it mobilized the IRS to go after people who are not paying their quote fair share of taxes. So all of my small business audience, my government contractors, you need to be sure that your books are in order. Go out, retain a tax specialist. Once again, you need a tax specialist. Your bookkeeper and your tax accountant are not necessarily the same person. And your tax strategists are not necessarily the same person. They could be three different people. And I would argue, as you grow your business, they should not be your bookkeeper and your tax person shouldn't be the same person, just for checks and balances. Because if the same person doing your books is the same person filing your taxes, I'm not saying somebody's dishonest, but what I am saying, you need somebody to make sure that they're not catching their mistakes or potential mistakes. And if the same person is doing everything, then there's no checks and balances. So as you scale and grow, who's doing your books should not be the person filing your taxes. Who's coming up with your tax strategy should not be the person and your tax strategy should not be developed when you file your taxes. Let me change that. When you're filing your 2021 taxes, you should be creating your 2023 tax strategy. And you can only do that if you're aware of what the new tax laws are going to be. So that is somebody that should be on your board of advisors, not board of directors, not the same thing. But you should have an advisory board that you can go to that will provide you with that information for the growth of your business. We're talking about up-leveling our conversation. We're talking about building a compliant and sustainable foundation so that you can grow and scale your business. And this is the conversations that we need to be having if we're going to do scalability and growth in our businesses. With that said, government contractors, I'm going to keep saying this until you hear me, and then I'm going to say it again. There are new IT security requirements rolling out. DoD is already implementing them. Every new RFP coming out, Section J and Section L, is stipulating security requirements. CMMI, I believe I have that correct, certification. GSA and Homeland Security are not requiring it yet, but they are tagging along. I foresee by the end of this government year, first quarter, FY 2023, the entire government is going to be on this bandwagon. So I suggest you start looking into implementing this level of security. Off the shelf, Norton antivirus is not going to be enough. And I'm just saying that because the government has been under attack with malware, spyware, cyber attacks, and they're identifying that the contractors and subcontractors are a source of vulnerability, and they're often being attacked through their contractors and subcontractors. Therefore, they're requiring them to beef up their cybersecurity. We have been in this world for quite some time. Some of us have just been operating with blinders on, and everybody's just going to have to rip the blinders off and just welcome to 2021. Hey, that's just the world we live in now. COVID mandates are out. This is not a political platform. This is an uncertain time. How you choose to deal with the COVID mandate as a business owner is how you choose to deal with them. As a government contractor, you cannot do business on the federal level unless you comply. And right now, there are no exemptions, even if you have employees who do not go into the office. So your entire workforce must be vaccinated. The Pentagon has taken the steps of saying they're including that language in all RFPs, contracts, delivery orders being issued beginning October 15th. So look for that language to start appearing in RFPs, solicitations, contract awards, delivery orders, IDIQs, starting on October 15th. They're not going to do contract amendments as of what I've seen. They're just doing a look forward starting October 15th. However, the executive order, we are under a state of emergency, has the impact of law. And OSHA has quite frankly, changed their rules and regulations to codify this. So it's here to stay. So I suggest you have a conversation with your contracting officers and see what they're saying. On the state level, state of Virginia, Delaware, some other states have taken the viewpoint of if they're coming on to state property, they have to be vaccinated or subject to weekly testing. If they're not coming onto government property, they don't care. That was the last guidance I saw. Admittedly, I have not gone back out and looked. I will go out and look. I cannot go search 50 states at this particular moment in time. However, as the updates come out, I will post them to my website and as a resource. So you can always check the LT&A group.com for any updates or mandates that are coming. And then the final update or upcoming changes that I'm going to discuss today is the head of the Ways and Means Committee expressed concerns about bid protest process. And that is because, quite frankly, The Star Wars contract got bid protested into the ground. Millions of dollars were spent and wasted due to that protest. Um, GSA's Oasis contract was protested into the ground. Bid protests are a good tool, and they're designed to keep the whole government bid process transparent. And it's also designed to catch flaws in the system if there be any. And there are flaws sometimes. Sometimes the contracting officer or the reviewing team make errors. Sometimes accidental, sometimes glaring. So the bid process is a good process. However, comma, some contractors are using it as a bludgeoning tool to usurp the process. I do know at one time it was used as bullying tactic, and what companies would do is they didn't like the outcome. They would bid protest it, the whole work, and then they would do like backdoor deals to get part of the work, waive the bid protest, and then go on. A change was made about 10, no, my kids are 10, about 15 years ago, where the loser had to bear the cost of bid protest. Well, if you have deep pockets, that doesn't bother you. It did slow down some of the frivolous, I mean, obviously frivolous protests, but it didn't stop the sour grapes, we're just going to call it. So there's going to be a change to the bid protest process coming up. I don't know what that looks like. The chairman of that committee didn't go into details, but he says, and I think it was a valid point, the process is being abused to the point that it's wasting money and it's wasting time. And to that end, they've got to come up with something better. So we'll see how that wraps up. So, in wrapping up, I have an upcoming class coming out called Decoding the RFP. I'm going to walk through how to kind of read the solicitation, um, language that you should be looking out for, requirements, how you should respond. I can't stand this template conversation, and I'm going to deep dive into that as well. So be on the lookout for that. I'm finally going to release my Sustainer Core training. Um, and that training is geared for new contractors. It's going to go over some of the basics of government contracting so that you know what you're getting into. I will never forget, I had a conversation with a contracting officer, and he was even talking about one of his biggest pet peeves was some small businesses didn't know how to submit an invoice. And even though they actually told them what to correct on the bill, and by law, the government cannot change your bill, they have to send it back to you. And they went as far as to tell them, change these things, and then we can accept your bill. And they still went through a back and forth. I think it was like 5 times before they got a decent bill that they could pay. And then small businesses complain about not timely payments. But if you're not submitting a compliant bill, you can't get paid on time. A lot of things are a legal requirement. So we're going to talk about all that in Sustainer Core. So keep a lookout on that. I'm releasing a book in time for Black Friday. That's my Contractors Battle book. You're going to see I'm going to really pre-orders are going to be available for that, so keep an eye out for that as well. And I'm doing a virtual summit which will start November 1st. So I have a whole lot going on in this final quarter. So keep your eyes open. You're going to see registration links. You're going to see promo videos coming out from me. Yes, it's going to be hectic in quarter three, but quarter four, calendar year, quarter one, fiscal year. So, yes, there's a whole lot going on. So, with that, I invite you to join me tomorrow morning at 8:15 a.m. for another installment of Contractors Chatter. I'm Luciana Turner, your host. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Have a good one.